I told them to join, but I don't know whether anybody is there.
So it is like almost for 6 weeks and around 10 classes.
Okay.
And Pratik is an expert. He is expert in counseling, and so we thought it's last week we did this insurance program, which was also well attended. So we thought let us create these programs for the training of many hospitals, and with the online mode, it is also now simpler. So that is we are trying to do more programs like this.
Okay.
Which will improve the practices, because our core focus is on practice development. So we thought that these things will also help in improving the practice of hospitals.
Yes, it'll help a lot, especially look back how we traveled across. We had no guidance, nothing. We were just swimming in ocean without any guidance. So now youngsters are very lucky in that way.
Yeah. So today, basically, we will start at 6 o'clock or 6 to wait for a little bit, 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then I will introduce you and Pratik, and you can start with a small introduction, and Pratik has some questions basically about your perspective on counseling. And then after the questions are over, Pratik will take over and he will do the sessions.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So Pratik is an expert, so he is going to handle the full sessions. We thought we will also have some, every session we wanted to have some external guest kind of a person who can give his perspective, mostly ophthalmologists and other people.
Pratik is an ophthalmologist, or he is a specialist in?
No, so Pratik is a practice development consultant. He runs a company called Platinum Black. He's based out of Maharashtra. His wife is an ophthalmologist. His wife is an ophthalmologist.
Oh.
If you remember, we have met at your practice a few years back.
Okay. Yeah. But name is familiar, face is familiar. Maybe you have gone down in,
Yeah, it was long back, I guess, around 7-8 years back we met.
Okay. 8 years back.
Yeah, almost 8 years.
On the same platform?
No, I had visited your practice that time.
You had come here. Oh,
yeah. Yes.
Oh,
we spent almost an hour over there, and we discussed quite a few things.
Okay.
Last year, I think your daughter-in-law was a participant in the same program.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice meeting you after so many years.
Yeah, thank you.
You should come to Bangalore and visit us once more. And I would like to definitely visit you.
Yes. Honor to me, sir.
So what are you going to ask me? I told him, instead of me talking for 15 minutes, it's always nice to have an interaction.
Okay. No, there are a few questions from ophthalmologist's perspective on counseling. Like, I mean, when you hire a counselor, what qualities would you expect from a counselor? Both, I mean, the soft skill part of it, and then educational qualification also.
Okay.
Then what are your expectations? Like, I mean, what are the expectations from the counseling department? Like most of the places, it's just, conversion game. So, and for me, counseling is much more than that. So, from ophthalmologist point of view, because counselors feel very happy once they convert, but then, it's not the case with ophthalmologists always. It's better to have better packages, but then at times it's headache also. So, choosing the right candidate, and then what exactly counseling means to you. At your practice, how are the practices of counseling? So, what all things do you follow? What your counselors do follow?
Okay.
And then what's your opinion on how much do we get involved, or how much do we get our counselors involved in the financial part of it? So, do we empower them for, certain times we need to give them concessions, the patients. So do we empower them? So financial aspects of the surgeries.
What
So
I'm
these
going
are
to
four,
share is
five
what we are
questions.
doing, isn't it? Now, what others are doing are different. Then I'll share what we are doing in our
Yes,
place.
yes, 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 sir. Certainly, certainly.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So first you can have your speech, and then we will open it for question and answer. I'll ask, and then if audience wants to ask, then we'll ask them. So maybe 45 minutes or so we'll have this session, and then I'll take over the introduction to counseling session.
And the session goes on till
8 o'clock, sir.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
6 to 8, I see it here.
Yeah. So we have almost 26 people joined in now. We'll wait for 10 minutes, and then once Dr. Senthil gives us green signal, we'll start, sir. Right?
So what does your madam specialize in ophthalmology?
She has done her cornea
Okay.
from Disha under Dr. Basak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but nowadays, I mean, we have started our new practice here in a rural part of Pune district 2 years back. So we had our practice in Mumbai, suburbs of Mumbai. So that still goes on. Our partner takes care of that. But we have shifted over here after lockdown. So here she has not touched cornea as yet. We are focusing on mainly on the general ophthalmology, and then we have visiting specialists for retina, pediatric, and all those things.
You look after the administration?
Sorry?
You look after the administration of the hospital?
Whenever I'm here, I have my own clients, so most of the times I'm on tour. But then when I'm here, then I definitely take care of the hospital management.
Okay. When you visited Bangalore, what did we discuss? Actually, it's out of my memory,
Yeah, no, we
thanks to
had
my age.
taken a tour of your hospital, and then we had discussed the scope of practice management at your practice. And I had given a small presentation on my profile. So you had shared your concerns that time. I think your son had just joined, or he was about to join. Coincidentally, he and your daughter-in-law had my number with them. So I guess I don't remember whether they were there, but then last year she said that she had my number. So maybe I met them also.
Okay.
It's long back.
Dr. Senthil should say, what are the future plans of Ophthall?
Of Ophthall.
Yes.
Yeah. So he keeps on discussing every
Yes, sir.
session.
You are asking regarding the future plans for Ophthall. So basically, we are now more into one thing is we got into this group purchase thing, which has become very successful. We have launched our own brand of products, and even recently launched one OCT is at a very reasonable cost. And our conferences are happening regularly, and we are also guiding a lot of smaller practices on like people who are just starting. We help them right from the planning of the initial setup to even setting up the website, buying equipment. From the time I think we started in 2018, we have guided almost 300 plus practices now. Starting younger doctors who were initially apprehensive to start, but then on seeing others, and some of the practices who started with one center, they are now expanded to multiple centers. So we are happy that because there is always this initial hesitation to start a practice, which I think when doctors join our groups, they are getting the confidence to start the practice. I think that way we have helped supported a lot of practices. So hopefully, I think we want to continue doing all these things which we are doing. And our conference this year, the physical conference, we are planning in Hyderabad. So I think we'll have a good number of people for the conference also. And recently we started a lot of work on insurance with Dr. Hari Krishnan in Hyderabad. So we are helping a lot of smaller practices to at least in terms of documentation for insurances. I think a lot of progress has been made. So, and a lot. I think we are, we will start in another 3 minutes, sir. 6:05 we will start. So this is the we have started this program after the successful program which we were running last year and with the Pratik. So I'm sure all of you are aware of Ophthall. Ophthall is India's only practice management organization for ophthalmologists, and which is run by ophthalmologists. And we, in addition to our conferences, we also run these training programs through Ophthall Academy. So the programs range right from counseling to optical prescription, optical training, training on insurance for doctors. Apart from our physical conferences, we also run a series of online programs to support eye hospitals perform the responsibilities in a better way. So we always understand that the counselor plays a very important role in the surgical process and even the procedural part, and training of the counselors has a lot of importance in eye hospital. And most of the time we have counselors who come by experience, but the scientific skill training and then the counseling in a professional way is something very important even for smaller eye hospitals. That is where the corporate hospitals score compared to a smaller eye hospital. So we wanted to have this program, and Pratik Kismatrao, who will be running the program for the next 10 sessions or 6 weeks, is an expert in this particular subject. And I think most of us know Pratik. Pratik is running a practice management organization himself called Platinum Black. He is based out of Maharashtra, and his wife is an ophthalmologist. And Pratik has experience of working in a lot of these large multinational companies, including Alcon. He worked in the practice development divisions of these companies, and counseling is one part which he is passionate about. And he has been in this field for almost 20 plus years. So, and his wife is an ophthalmologist, so he also understands the ophthalmology side of this. And he has been a regular speaker in all our conferences, right from the first Ophthall conference, which was held in Chennai in 2018. So, and we have a special guest speaker, Dr. M.S. Ravindra, who is a very close mentor for us and close friend also. I think there is some. I request all of you to mute because. So please mute yourself so that there is no disturbance for the others. Remain always on the muted. And if you have any questions, please type those questions. Please don't intervene in between. Pratik will give time during the end of the session where you can ask your questions also. And these programs are recorded. So in case you miss something also, there is no issues. So you can always have the recording for future reference also. So that I think all of you have seen the list of topics which are going to be held over the next 10 sessions. Today's topic is quite important because it gives you an introduction into the counseling, like what is counseling and what is a counselor's role, and just setting up the tone for the next 9 classes. And we have, as I had mentioned before, we have a special guest, Dr. M.S. Ravindra. He's a very senior ophthalmologist from Bangalore, and he was the past president of Karnataka Ophthalmic Society, Bangalore Ophthalmic Society, and very helpful senior ophthalmologist, always interested in supporting the younger ophthalmologist practices. And he has been quite helpful for many of the practitioners. Even when I started the practice, he was the first person whom I went and met in Bangalore, and a well-known personality all over India. So we thought to have sir as the guest speaker to give his insights on counseling today. And Pratik will also be asking some questions to sir to have more like a discussion. After that, Pratik will take over and complete the session today. So the session is going to be held in both English and Hindi. So in case if you're not able to understand a little bit of the English version or the Hindi version, please do bear with us. There is a recording available, and you can always, Pratik is there in the WhatsApp group. You can also connect to him whenever you have a doubt offline also. So I request Dr. M.S. Ravindra to kind of start with an introduction about his perspective of counseling, and then Pratik to get into the discussion with Dr. Ravindra sir, and then we will go into the session today. So request all of you to be muted, and if you have any questions, please type your questions. So we will answer it. Welcome, Dr. Ravindra sir.
Good evening, Dr. Senthil. Am I audible enough?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. I think I should congratulate Senthil and his very hardworking team for turning out the best that we have missed as youngsters. I was just telling him when we started practice so many decades ago, there was absolutely no guidance of the kind that youngsters today are receiving from Senthil and his group. And ophthalmology, we can learn from various sources. That's what we have been doing it during post-graduation and after surgery. Our patients teach a lot, books teach a lot, digital medium teaches a lot, but then the hand-holding that Senthil is doing in various fields is mind-boggling. He is bringing so many talented people into the arena, and it's available freely to get their expertise into one's practice, and that's an amazing gift that he has given to the today's generation. I'm sure, and I wish Senthil and his team to grow in phenomenal heights in the days to come. About the counseling part of it, going back to my practice, which I started long time ago, 1980s, there is nothing called counseling. Patient comes and we used to talk to the patient, and in one way, good or bad, we were all considered as gods to the patients. Whatever we say, whatever we decide, whatever we perform, good or bad, the patient used to accept. And even the blindness, I've seen people accepting it as a karma. That's what we're all aware of. And then that's all about counseling. But then the today's counseling in a multi-speciality or corporate hospital is totally a different ball game, and they're extremes. So one is that, and one is what's happening today. They have targets. They have to convert from lower packages to higher packages. Those who come to the insurance and these things, the main job is the financial benefiting of the hospital by various means that we're all familiar with. That's another extreme. So where do we have to accept? Should we go back to the previous era, or should we merge and practice what is going on today? The ideal thing is probably staying somewhere in between, depending upon the type of practice that you would like to have, type of growth that you would like to have in the future. The way you modulate your counseling department is decides what is going to happen to you in the future, in the times to come. I would tell my counselors when they join or when I train them is, your loyalty is not me, though I pay salary to you, your loyalty is to the patients. Honestly, from the core of your heart, your loyalty is to the patients. Do everything that is good for the patients and forget about your employer, your doctor, your hospital, whatever it is. It is not just telling them, go for this package or that package. To be a good counselor, you will have to educate yourself. The best way is you go through as a patient, right from the time you enter to the hospital, going through the consultation, going through the investigation, though you may not have a cataract, or bring somebody, an elderly person, and stay with the patient, exactly learn what's the patient's experience. Go and lie down under the microscope in an operation theater and see what happens. Listen to the noises, listen to the lights, listen to everything. So you will have a first-hand knowledge of how the patient feels during the entire journey, and your job is to give worthiness to that experience. Forget about everything else. The patient should remember your name. If your name is XYZ, the patient should remember your name as well as he remembers the hospital's or doctor's name. That should be your target. That's a good counselor. Handhold the person throughout your experience during the thing is, that's one. How do you train yourself? First, don't go and sit in a room, in an air-conditioned room and start talking to the patient, thinking that you know everything. Probably the best counselor is an optometrist or a medical BBS doctor or somebody who knows the anatomy, physiology, surgery, everything, or any person who is extrovert and very communicative, very sympathetic. That's the right person. And then you should understand the anatomy, physiology, surgery, everything, and you will be paid very well. You don't have to worry about incentives. An ideal counselor should not be paid an incentive. The moment your incentive is given, you have a target. You want to bring one level to another level to another level, and you'll forget about the medical or surgical benefits to the patients. You get a good salary, but no incentives for the performance of your work. Be honest and do not accept any gifts from the patient. This is something which we are very particular. The patient would bring a box of sweets or some gift to remember. Don't do that. But I've seen patients, like they come inside, the person's name. The patient always remember that person's name. That's the biggest credit that you can get. And what's your job? Your job is to describe the disease. What is the diagnosis that doctor has made? How do you know about it? You have to spend with the doctors in the doctor's chamber at least for a couple of months before you start working on your own. Be with the doctor from morning till evening. Learn how he interacts, how he talks. And that's the best way to learn the thing. And when a patient comes to the doctors and the doctor explains something, the communication is only about 20-30%. Patient may not ask all the questions that he would like to ask. And when the doctor explains, he may not be attentive because he is a sick person. He may not be attentive and may grasp only about 20-50% of what doctor wants to convey. Your job is to continue the thread, come outside with the patient and explain everything. And now, because you're not a doctor, you're not the person who's going to treat exactly, you do not have the vested interest. Today, the trust between a medical person and the patients is not as good as it was in the past. Trust has come down. There is an element of fear, there is an element of disbelief, there's an element of exploitation, the doctor may exploit, and all that feeling will be there when he talks to the patient. These are all different angles of the patient's thought. But when he's talking to a counselor, he is absolutely relaxed. He knows exactly what questions and all the questions in the mind he can express, and he will trust you much more than anybody else. So this is the advantage of being a counselor, and you can really touch the hearts of these patients. Few tips I would like to give to push a patient from one package to another package. Often we say, go for the imported material, imported lens, imported that, imported this, and compare it with an Indian made. Today, all of you should understand that everybody knows Indian products are as good or sometimes even better than imported ones. The patients have phenomenal knowledge. Most of the youngsters who come today from the IT background or from the learned background or business background or technology background, they easily get the information from Google. That means you should be as knowledgeable, minimum yardstick is you should be as knowledgeable as your patients as far as Google knowledge is concerned. If we ask something and if you cannot properly answer, then you are brought down one level. You should be ready to receive the question and ready to answer. There are possibilities that you will not be able to answer all the questions. You can always take a paper, write down the question that the patient has asked, and tell him that I'm going to ask the senior doctor or senior consultant and come back to you, sir, and finish that loop. Don't leave it, don't expect that patient will forget that. He will never ever forget. And write down all the questions and answer them to the best of the patient's knowledge, and keep reading his eyes. It's very easy to read person's eyes. If he is not happy with the answer, then you go back and supplement the answer with additional knowledge. What are you going to achieve? You should know the diagnosis, you should know the treatment, you should always tell the alternatives. And whenever there is a complex issue, voice record it with the permission of the patient and share the information to the patient. It is very, very important in digital age. It's very easy to record voice today and give the alternatives. And then you cannot push the patient to a particular treatment, and you can only guide the patient from one level to another level as far as the information is concerned. And one other thing is, you are also has to continuously give feedback to the management and doctors, tell that this patient has this, rate the patient, what is the fear that he has, and your good counseling will reduce the fear. Some of the studies have said that if you can evaluate the amount of fear that the patient has, your good talking will reduce the fear by 50–70% of whatever the patient had before. Otherwise he would have had so much more fear complex when he undergoes the treatment. The feedback giving to the doctor is very important in general, and that will go a long way. And you are supposed to fill up the consent forms, understand, make them read them, and never tell, sign here, sign here. That's a very bad way of a counselor. You should explain, give time to the patient. Never take a counseling, the consent form on the day of surgery. Give at least 3, 4, 5 days time for the patient to read them and come back. And the dates that you have to mention is on the day of counseling and not the day of surgery. During the talking, one other thing that comes, which is very important nowadays, is the patient would have told you that I had this eye operated elsewhere by another doctor. He may mention, may not mention, and suddenly some of the doctors, some of the counselor will start saying, "Oh, we have much better facility," or "That's gone wrong," like that. So this is something which you're not supposed to do. Give respect to everybody, all the doctors, wherever they are practicing. This is practiced extensively outside the country, but in India, I still see that patients look down. The medical fraternity looks down upon another center, which is suicidal for everybody. This is something which all counselors should learn and practice, that respect every doctor, whether he is your employer or an opponent or a person who is practicing elsewhere. Give full respect to them and never degrade the work the other doctor has done. This is very important. And you have to be ethical. You cannot give wrong information to the patient saying that this is better, that's better. It's always good to be very ethical in your approach. And today, as I said, the trust the patients have, the public has to the medical practice, unfortunately, is lower than what it was. And it's our duty as a fraternity, the doctors, the staff, and to be very, very, good to the patients and improve the relations in the days to come, so that the practice becomes genuine and this thing, and the entire environment becomes smooth and nice. So today is a day when insurances have come into medical practice. Now the aggregators are trying to come into medical practice. And my personal opinion is, the patient has money and he gets the benefit of treatment, and the money has to be transferred from one place, that the patient's hands, to the medical fraternity. Now these other people in between them, they are taking away a lot of money, which should either belong to the patients or to the doctors or to the hospitals. And this has to be kept in mind all the time. Should we encourage these people who act as medium, and they will ultimately invest in the United States. As much as 60–70% of the money that's meant for healthcare is going to the people who are in between the doctors and patients. This is something which we all have to digest and think how to plan the future. With these few introductions, I would request Pratik and Senthil to carry on with their agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. I have questions. I mean, I'm sure everyone will have similar kind of questions. Uh, People have requested us to use Hindi as well as English, because there are this is a mixed group. So I would like to clarify to everyone that we'll try to mix both English and Hindi in my sessions. Uh, as you're mentioning, I mean, it is means it's more than 30 years of practice now. So that time I was in college. So when I started being in ophthalmology, that time also counseling was not very much widely accepted practice. So ophthalmologists used to practice, I mean, counsel themselves. So what do you think? I mean, now almost everyone, a small practitioner to corporate hospitals, almost everyone has a full-time counselor. So what are advantages of having counselor and what are disadvantages of having counselor? So, if you compare both 30 years back and now.
So a good question, Pratik, and you are already partly answered it. At that time, the communication between the doctor and the patient was very less. A few minutes. We had 50 patients lined up, and we used to examine and say that get this done, and that will happen. So there is no question of communication. There is no question of consents. It's one line consent that I'm willing for a cataract surgery, and that's the end of it. Today, it's a question of legalities. Today is a question of transfer of information from one place to another place. A lot of time is involved. So which doctors have precious limited time, and they will not be able to do it on their own. And now, of course, with that constraint of time, constraint of the parameters that happen today in today's scenario, I would think that today everybody needs to have a counselor or somebody, maybe a nurse, or maybe somebody who can transfer all the information what the doctor would like to convey to the patients. It's a must today.
Great. So we have a mixed group. I mean, and I'm sure there are a few ophthalmologists who have joined in as a participants in this program, and most of them are counselors who are practicing counselors at various practices. So what do you think? I mean, for them who have not appointed counselors yet, and for them who are counselors themselves, what qualities do you think? I mean, you look into counselor when you say that, okay, I mean, he can make a good material for counselor.
It's a very good question. Basically, it should be a very sympathetic person. In my practice, what I have seen is to employ a person, a teacher, like somebody who has handled children, primary school, middle schools, and she or he is looking for a job. That will be probably an ideal counselor if you're looking for it. If there are 5 people applying for the job, somebody who has taught children is probably जो पढ़ाया है बच्चों को बहुत अच्छा काउंसलर बनेगा. तो वो एक चीज है. तो दूसरा है ऑप्टोमेट्रिस्ट. Okay, optometrists draw a good salary, but if there is an optometrist जो उनको सारी जानकारी होता है, cataract क्या है, glaucoma क्या है, very quickly the person will be able to pick up things and come back. The qualities that as a person should have is very sympathetic. She should be able to converse a lot. She should not get bored or disturbed by repeated questioning. दोबारा पेशेंट्स पूछते हैं वही क्वेश्चन, उसको बहुत पेशेंस सर्विस, जैसे पहले दफा आंसर किया है 8वां दफा भी ऐसे ही आंसर करना, वही मूड में बहुत टाइम देना पड़ता है. तो these are the qualities that the patient should have, and she should have basically you can't create a smile on the face. You pick up a person who has a smile on the face. So it's very difficult to say I can smile for 2 minutes, but how do I smile for the whole day? So when you pick up a person who is very pleasant and you like to talk to the person, that kind of person is probably the ideal. Whether the person should be a graduate or overgraduate or an accounts person, it doesn't really matter. Even a person who has failed in SSLC can be a very good counselor. And languages are very important. Today, whatever the colloquial language that's spoken there, the person should be very good in, very good command in that language.
Great. Thank you, sir. My next question is, actually, it was like when you said, ideally, you should have a medical person, MBBS person also, but everywhere we do not get, people with
Yes.
medical background.
Yes.
Then I'm sure ophthalmologists take a lot of efforts to train their counselors. But what do you think? I mean, what counselor themselves should do to train themselves? I mean, to keep them updated with the knowledge and
Very good question. अब YouTube में इतने सारे videos है, basic anatomy, basic, was at least they should spend at least couple of hours every day on their own, updating themselves. So what I say to my people is, unless you've learned 10 new things every day, don't hit the bed. 10 चीजें नया जो आपको कल मालूम नहीं था, आज नया आप सीखने का है 10, और हर एक दिन 10 दिया तो महीने में कितना हुआ 300. You will be rich in couple of months time. So you stay with the doctor as much as possible. वो जो जैसे उनका गेस्चर से जो बात करता है, जो इंस्ट्रक्शन देता है, एक कंजंक्टिवाइटिस पेशेंट है, उनका इंस्ट्रक्शन जो मैं देता हूँ, मेरा कलीग देता है, और कोई डॉक्टर अलग अलग है, तो सब सीखना है. तो डॉक्टर का जो मतलब आप क्या कर रहे हैं, डॉक्टर का काम आप करना पड़ता है, जो कम्युनिकेशन के बारे में वो एकदम सीखना पड़ेगा. अब पहले दिन से डॉक्टर साहब का साथ में रहने का है और सीखने का है, और उनका आगे वो YouTube में और नेट में जो भी है वो पढ़ के आप जानकारी लेना पड़ता है.
That's really valuable input, sir, because I mean, I'm sure हर एक के पास वो छोटा डिवाइस रहता है, but then it's up to us how we use that device smartly and to keep ourselves updated. My next question is, आपने एक बहुत important चीज कही कि nowadays counselors are focusing, or if we incentivize them, तो काउंसलर के दिमाग में एक चलता है कि मुझे ये सामने वाले पेशेंट को कैसे हायर पैकेज में अपग्रेड करना है. So as an ophthalmologist or as an employer or as a boss, मैं आपको पूछना चाहूंगा कि बॉस कब खुश होता है, जब पेशेंट हायर पैकेज में अपग्रेड होता है या पेशेंट सेटिस्फाई होके जाता है?
Very good question. See, it's a question of long-term sustaining of the practice. If you want long sustaining, you got to be truthful to the patient. जो सच है वो बताना चाहिए. एक पेशेंट को मल्टीफोकल लेंस लगाने का है, मल्टीफोकल लगाने से कई मतलब 5-10 हज़ार ज्यादा इनकम आएगा पेशेंट हॉस्पिटल को. उनको मल्टीफोकल लेंस उनको ठीक से मतलब उनका एडवाइस ठीक नहीं है, तो हमारा क्या है, तो उसका मैकुला में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है, कॉर्निया रेगुलर नहीं हो सकता है. सो आपको जानकारी होना चाहिए पेशेंट को क्या क्या मिनिमम क्वालिफिकेशन होना चाहिए पर्टिकुलर ट्रीटमेंट के लिए. तो उसको आप स्टडी करना, वो स्कैनिंग पढ़ने के लिए आपको सीखना पड़ता है, बाद में डॉक्टर साहब से बताना पड़ता है. सीधा आप विजुअल नीड्स क्या है, वो एक पेशेंट होता है, उनको कोई गाड़ी नहीं चलाता है, उनको क्या जरूरत क्या है, इतना दूर 6/5 विजन के लिए क्या जरूरत है, उनको पास का जरूरत बहुत ज्यादा होता है. घर में काम करता है, कंप्यूटर में काम करता है, किचन में काम करता है, उनका जरूरत पास का है. तो उनका पेशेंट का नीड्स क्या है सीख के learn, you have to learn the patient needs, visual needs of the patient, that's what I'm going to say, and match it with the eye structure and function, existing one, then you can come to a conclusion. Never think of money, never think of money. There are many conditions where a lower package is probably better than a higher package for a particular patient. Okay, but in that case, you cannot really push. So your job as a counselor is not to make more money. Your job is to ensure that that particular practice sustains for a long time with the expected growth and expected, satisfaction.
That's a wonderful response. I mean, coming from ophthalmologists, yeah, makes really difference. How does counseling process take place at Karthik Nitra, or I mean, at your practice? and who are the counselors, and then what efforts do you take to train them, retrain them?
See,
How does it happen?
to be very frank, we never had counselors till recently. So I appointed my first counselors about a year ago. Though our practice is 40-year-old practice, we didn't believe in employing a practice. Everybody who is working with the surgical, inpatient department or whatever, the surgical department, was acting like a counselor. But basically, I used to, or my colleagues, there are 6 or 7 doctors, they used to call the person who is going to handhold and explain them, hand over the patient to them, and then they take and complete all the investigations, and the patient is brought back to the doctor, and doctor briefly explains, and that carries a lot of weight, lot of weight. And now we have, certainly we have 2 counselors at this point of time. They are trained in-house. They are trained in-house, and they understand all the investigations, all the scans and everything. Patient, they spend a lot of time with the patients, and they can today take call as to what kind of packages. Any doubts, they come back to us. They shuttle between patient and doctors, and that way we save a lot of time. And why did we employ after such a long, sustenance in practice? Is only to save time. Number one. Number two. Today is all different kind of practice, and we'll have to modulate ourselves to suit today's practice. That's only possible when you have, designated counselors.
Great. My last question, as far as financial aspects are concerned, what do you think? How much a counselor should get involved? Like, I don't know whether we empower counselors to handle questions like discounts and concessions and surgical packages.
Yeah, the counselors should handle everything. They are complete A to Z. Because they should understand there may be a person who may look very rich, but if the counselor talks to them, she knows that they are have financial difficulties. Genuinely, they are looking for a package. Like for example, a toric lens. The patient is benefited by a toric lens, and patient cannot afford that lens. And instead of pushing him to a non-toric lens, I mean, she can come back and tell this is a very genuine case. She has got -3 cylindrical, 3 cylinders on the K reading, and the patient will not be able to afford, and take permission from the authorities to give a benefit, a financial benefit to the patient. So, and there is another patient. Patient has got tons of money, and he will never be happy with the cheaper lens. Never ever be happy with it. If you give a 25,000-30,000 package, he will probably leave and go to another practice. She is a person who has to understand the wavelength of the patient and modulate the packages depending upon. Ultimate aim is to empathize with the patient's needs. I mean, that's the goal of a person. To modulate with the wavelengths of the patient's thoughts is probably modulate. Never think of the money comes. Money comes for every practitioner, every setup will have money. But it's the honesty, empathy is the one which wins the race on a long-term basis.
Thank you so much, Dr. M.S. Ravindra, for your valuable inputs. I would like to ask audience if they have any questions. Please don't unmute yourself and ask the question. You can type your question in the chat box. I'm sure Dr. Ravindra is going to be with us for some more moments. So as we get your questions, we'll try and ask these questions to Dr. So you can type your questions in chat box, and we'll take them one by one. I'm sorry. I'll request Dr. Senthil, if he's around. Can we start with the introduction to counseling session? Okay, fine. I think Dr. Senthil is busy somewhere, so we'll start with my session. Dr. Senthil has already given introduction, and I'm going to be your host, and I won't say tutor or mentor. I'm going to be your friend and guide for next 10 or 12 sessions, wherein we'll be having this comprehensive counselor training program, online training program organized by Ophthall. Before we start, I would like to see all the beautiful faces of the participants. So I would request everyone to kindly start their videos for some moments so that I can see what kind of class I am handling. Oh, great! People are coming in one by one, and as I can see by your profiles, we are having quite a varied group. I can see few doctors, I can see counselors, I can see few from Maharashtra, I can see few from rest of Maharashtra, South India. Great, great, great. So can everyone please start their videos quickly? So I can see your enlightened faces after Dr. Ravindra's wonderful speech and guidance. Great, lovely. Good, good, good. So once again, a very good evening to all. We'll start with my session now. As Dr. Sandil has introduced, let me just repeat. I'm Pratik Kismatrao. I'm a freelancing practice management consultant, practicing for last 20 odd years, and have worked with more than 60 ophthalmologists in these 20 years at various aspects of practice. Counseling is very, close to heart topic for me, and I must have trained more than around 500 to 600 counselors in these 20 years. So I'm really glad to have you all for these online training program. So I'll just quickly share my screen and yeah, just a moment. Yeah, so the first session will be having, am I audible? And is the presentation visible? Someone please quickly reply.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So in today's session, we'll have an overview of what we are going to cover in next 10 sessions. Just for your information, we are going to have 10 different sessions on various aspects of counseling, including the basics like is my video blocked? Someone has typed video and screen is on, right?
Yes, sir. Your screen is on only.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll be having different topics which will be covered in next 10 sessions. And then last 1 or 2 sessions, we'll be having practice sessions wherein we all will have mock counseling sessions, and then you will have to participate, of course, on this virtual platform. We'll have few people as patients, and then we'll see what you have learned in these 10 sessions over next 6 weeks. So welcome to the online training, counselor training program by Ophthall. Basically, what we mean, as Dr. Ravindra was mentioning, nowadays, most of the times, people, when we call counseling or when we think of counseling, people just think of selling. That means, the counselor has this target or the indirect target in mind that I have to sell. I have to upgrade my patients. I'm sorry, मुझे हिंदी में भी बात करनी है. Just अगर मैं Miss Swati Mehra, can you mute yourself? अगर मैं बीच बीच में भूल जाऊं और इंग्लिश में बात करने लगूं तो मुझे प्लीज रिमाइंड कर दीजिए. Nowadays काउंसलर्स के दिमाग में ये होता है कि मुझे मेरे पेशेंट को हायर पैकेज में अपग्रेड करना है. But as we heard from Dr. Ravindra that your boss or your ophthalmologist is not happy only when you upgrade your patient. आप जब पेशेंट को अपग्रेड करते हैं उससे बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है जो फर्स्ट पार्ट है काउंसिल करना. So according to me, counseling is not just selling. It's counseling plus selling. Of course, selling is part of it. आपको पेशेंट को कन्वर्ट करना है किसी एक पैकेज में, but then that's not the whole as a counseling process. दूसरा एक अगर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू हम देखें तो काउंसलिंग इज जस्ट नॉट एन ओपीडी प्रोसेस. आपके डॉक्टर ने, आपके ऑफ्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट ने पेशेंट को डायग्नोस किया है कैटरैक्ट के लिए या फिर किसी और चीज के लिए, एंड देन दैट पेशेंट इज सेंट टू यू फॉर काउंसलिंग. एंड देन आप एक स्टेशन पे बैठे हो, आपने पेशेंट को काउंसिल किया, पेशेंट आपके स्टेशन से या केबिन से बाहर चला गया. इट्स जस्ट नॉट एन ओपीडी प्रोसेस. वी हैव टू लुक एट काउंसलिंग as much more than just information giving process or sub process of OPD. For me, counseling is a promotional avenue. आपके प्रैक्टिस के बारे में, आपके हॉस्पिटल के बारे में पेशेंट को प्रमोशनल कुछ मैसेज देने के लिए काउंसलिंग इज अ वंडरफुल अपॉर्चुनिटी. And then if you start treating your job as a promotional opportunity or promotional avenue, then आपका पूरा नजरिया, आपका पूरा point of view, it will be changed. How? I'll just quickly brief. Basically, typically these are the stations wherein your patient visits in your practice. आपके practice में जब patient आता है तो the first one is obviously reception. Reception पे रजिस्ट्रेशन होता है और उसको वेटिंग एरिया में बिठाया जाता है. देन certainly the next station is optometrist room or the workup room. Then the third station is the consultant's cabin, and if required the counseling cabin. And most of the time the patient is spending his or her time in waiting area. तो इन 5 stations में से These are the 2 stations wherein हम पेशेंट को कुछ अपने प्रैक्टिस के बारे में एक्स्ट्रा प्रमोशनल मैसेज देके भेज सकते हैं. वेटिंग एरिया में आप कुछ पोस्टर्स या फिर एजुकेशनल वीडियोस लगा के, वी विल नॉट टॉक अबाउट द वेटिंग एरिया, बट देन आउट ऑफ रेस्ट ऑफ द स्टेशंस, जैसे कि रजिस्ट्रेशन काउंटर हुआ या फिर रिसेप्शन हुआ, ऑप्टोमेट्रिस्ट वर्कअप रूम हुई और कंसल्टेंट्स केबिन हुआ, एंड देन काउंसलिंग रूम. Out of all these 4 cabins or 4 chambers, ज्यादा से ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटी आपके पास है, क्योंकि आपके पास पेशेंट का ज्यादा से ज्यादा समय पेशेंट स्पेंड कर सकता है. पेशेंट स्पेंड्स मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम आइदर इन वेटिंग और एट काउंसलिंग रूम. सो जहां पे ज्यादा टाइम पेशेंट बिताता है या फिर स्पेंड करता है, वहां पे आपके पास आपके प्रैक्टिस के बारे में कुछ एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन देने की अपॉर्चुनिटी है. सो दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड काउंसलिंग इज जस्ट नॉट एन ओपीडी प्रोसेस, बट इट्स अ प्रमोशनल एवेन्यू. विल कम टू द काउंसलिंग प्रोसेस जो हम अगले 10 सेशंस में देखने जा रहे हैं. तो एग्जैक्टली काउंसलर को क्या करना है, what is role of counselor, how patient is upgraded. Counseling just not आपके पास पेशेंट आया, आपने कैटरैक्ट क्या है बताया, उसके बाद में सर्जरी कैसे होती है बता दिया, या फिर you showed some videos, and then your dearest part, that is the packages or few places, the menu card, and then you explain कि lenses होते हैं और ये लेंस का इतना खर्चा आता है, ये लेंस का इतना खर्चा आता है. It's not counseling. Counseling has got some science behind that. This is typically a sales process which is used in marketing and sales. But then when we try and relate it to counseling process, तो सबसे पहले पेशेंट जब आपके पास आता है तो पेशेंट इज एंग्शियस, पेशेंट के दिमाग में एंग्जाइटी रहती है। एट टाइम्स पेशेंट को पता रहता है, ऑलरेडी डायग्नोसिस हुआ रहता है कहीं और पे, या फिर अपनी प्रैक्टिस में पहले डॉक्टर ने बताया है कैटरेक्ट की शुरुआत है, यू विजिट 3 months डाउन और 6 months डाउन, तो पेशेंट को एक कंसेप्ट या फिर आइडिया है कि मुझे कैटरेक्ट है। Many a times patient first time आया है with diminished vision and then your consultant says कि आपके आंख में कैटरेक्ट है, मोतिया है, then patient is anxious and then consultant ने बताया now it's good time to get operated, तो patient और ज्यादा anxious है कि अभी मुझे फेस करना है ऑपरेशन को, मुझे ऑपरेशन फेस करना है। तो उस मेंटल स्टेट में पेशेंट आपके सामने आके बैठता है, so he is anxious. The first step is you explain everything. आपको क्या हुआ है, एग्जैक्ट कॉज क्या होता है, या फिर कॉजेस क्या हो सकते हैं, किस वजह से हुआ है। लाइक आई मीन इफ इट इज कैटरेक्ट देन विथ एजिंग, एंड इफ दैट इज यंग पेशेंट यू जस्ट ट्राई एंड टेक हिस्ट्री। अगर ट्रॉमा की हिस्ट्री, आप काउंसलर हैं, हमारे टेक्निकल सेशंस में हम वो भी चीजें कवर करने वाले, सो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू कवर दोज क्लिनिकल पार्ट ऑफ इट, बट देन यू एक्सप्लेन। फर्स्ट पार्ट इज गिव एक्सप्लेनेशन और गिव इंफॉर्मेशन। जब आपसे वो इंफॉर्मेशन रिसीव करता है, ही इज लेस एंग्शियस, उसकी एंजाइटी कम होती है। देन यू एडवांस टू द नेक्स्ट स्टेप, देन यू डिस्कस वेरियस ऑप्शंस, लाइक आपके पास सर्जरीज के क्या ऑप्शंस है। मैं what I mean by options is not just a menu card or your packages or the lens options. Obviously lens options, but then package, just remember package is not just a lens. I always give this example, like I mean on an average cataract surgery takes around on an average 15 to 18 minutes or 20 minutes. Okay, out of these 20 minutes or 15 minutes, the lens implantation part is just half a minute, correct, or maximum 45 seconds. बचे हुए जो 14.5 मिनट्स है या फिर 16.5 मिनट्स है, वो 16.5 मिनट्स आपका ऑफ्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट क्या करता है, वो किस तरह से इंश्योर करता है कि द फर्स्ट पार्ट इज डन वेरी वेल, सो दैट व्हेन यू इम्प्लांट द IOL ही गेट्स गुड विजुअल आउटकम। सो व्हेन द इम्प्लांटेशन पार्ट इज जस्ट हाफ अ मिनट, हमारे काउंसलिंग में एग्जैक्टली वेटेज उल्टा रहता है। We give maximum weightage to the IOL part, और जो 15.5-16 मिनट हमारा ऑफ्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट करता है, उसको हम हार्डली 1 या 1.5 मिनट में खत्म करते हैं। So when I say options, it's not just lens options, it's package options, and it's about the whole procedure. आपके पास प्रोसीजर के क्या ऑप्शंस है, प्रोसीजर कैसे की जाती है, why patient should opt to get operated at your place. So you give this information at next step, then he is less anxious and uska interest develop hota hai. So he is advanced at the third stage, that is interest develop hota hai. Then as Dr. Ravindra was mentioning, you need not promote or try hard to promote your patient to a best or better package. हर एक पेशेंट को मल्टीफोकल में नहीं कन्विंस करना है, या फिर हर एक पेशेंट को प्रीमियम इंपोर्टेड एस्फेरिक येलो प्रीलोडेड IOL में नहीं कन्विंस करना है। आपको देखना है उस पेशेंट की विजुअल नीड क्या है, उसका प्रोफाइल क्या है। वंस यू गैदर दिस इंफॉर्मेशन, उसके लिए यू विल हैव टू टॉक टू दैट पेशेंट, यू विल हैव टू इंटरैक्ट विद दैट पेशेंट, एंड देन यू विल हैव टू पोजीशन दैट पेशेंट। आपने जो ऑप्शंस दिए हैं, उन ऑप्शंस में उस पेशेंट को पोजीशन करना है कि आपके लिए ये सुटेबल हो सकते हैं। रिमेंबर, यू हैव टू पोजीशन, नॉट रेकमेंड। काउंसलर शुड नेवर रेकमेंड एनी पैकेज टू द पेशेंट। आई एम अवेयर ऑफ दैट कि मेनी ऑफ द पेशेंट्स डू आस्क यू कि आपके हिसाब से कौन सा बेस्ट है। मेनी ऑफ द पेशेंट्स आस्क ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट, मेनी ऑफ द पेशेंट्स आस्क काउंसलर्स आल्सो। कई बार ऐसे पूछा जाता है, अगर आपके माँ या पिताजी के आंख में डलवाना होता तो आप कौन सा डलवाते? I'm aware of all these questions, but still you need not recommend any specific package to, or you should not recommend any specific package to a patient. आपको उसे position करना है. Then he gets convinced. Then comes his mental budget. Then comes his mental budget. उसके दिमाग में एक बजट रहता है. ये 3 या 4 स्टेप्स चढ़ने के बाद में then he compares कि मेरे मेंटल बजट के हिसाब से मुझे किस में जाना है. बट if his mental budget is less, अगर उसका मेंटल बजट कम भी हुआ, फिर भी आपने अगर प्रॉपरली पोजीशन किया है, तो दैट पेशेंट विल गेट कन्विंस्ड फॉर द प्रॉपर पैकेज ऑटोमेटिकली. आपको एक्टिवली उसे प्रमोट करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. So that is why all these first 3 steps are very, very, very important. If you are honestly following these steps, then you are not into selling. जो मैंने first slide में कहा, then you have counseled the patient. Selling अपने आप हो जाता है, and then patients, himself or herself climbs the last step of this ladder that he commits. So this is the counseling process. I'm sure, this must be sounding very, very complicated. और ये सब करना कैसे है बताइए. तो ये सब करना कैसे है, यही चीज हम लोग नेक्स्ट 9 या 10 सेशंस में देखने वाले हैं. तो हम लोग अगले सेशंस में क्या देखने वाले हैं? अकॉर्डिंग टू मी, दीज आर 5 एलिमेंट्स ऑफ काउंसलिंग. ये काउंसलिंग के 5 एलिमेंट्स है. हु, काउंसलिंग कौन कर रहा है. हुम, आप किसे काउंसिल कर रहे हैं. व्हाट, क्या काउंसिल किया जा रहा है. वेयर इज वेरी मच इंपॉर्टेंट, कहां पे काउंसिल किया जा रहा है. एंड हाउ, कैसे काउंसिल हो रहा है. हमारे अगले 10 सेशंस में वी आर गोइंग टू टेक यू through all these 5 components or 5 elements of counseling: who, whom, what, where, and how. We'll just quickly run through all these 5 elements. Who, the counselor, आप खुद, या फिर जो डॉक्टर्स है, आपके कॉलीग्स, या फिर अगर आप खुद काउंसलिंग कर रहे हो तो आप खुद. Who is counseling? अगर आप खुद काउंसिल कर रहे हो तो क्या चीज का ध्यान रखना चाहिए. और अपॉइंटेड काउंसलर है. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज whether counselor is needed. डॉक्टर रविंद्र ने अपने स्पीच में या फिर अपने क्वेश्चन आंसर में लास्टली बहुत स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड किया, दैट इज नीड ऑफ टुडेज आवर. काउंसलर प्रैक्टिस में होना ही चाहिए. हाउ टू अपॉइंट अ काउंसलर, विल quickly take you through. If there are few ophthalmologists, if you have these questions, I'm sure Dr. Ravindra has mentioned in his speech or question answers what qualities, क्या क्या चीजें देखनी चाहिए. जो काउंसलर्स है, आप इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कीजिए. डॉक्टर रविंद्रा ने बताए हुए क्वालिटीज, whether they are there in you, whether you need to improve yourself, whether you need to polish yourselves, whether you need to upgrade yourselves. And then the last question and the last point is training of counselor. Many of the times ऐसा होता है कि काउंसलर अपॉइंट किया जाता है, एक आध सेशन ऑफ्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट लेते हैं, उसके बाद में अगर पुराना कोई काउंसलर है तो उसके साथ उसको जोड़ दिया जाता है. आप इनका देखिए, खुद सीखिए, एंड देन विद इन अ वीक आप काउंसलिंग स्टेशन पे इंडिपेंडेंट काउंसलिंग करना शुरू कीजिए. आई मस्ट कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट यू ऑल that your practice or your hospital has realized importance of counselor training and have enrolled yourselves into this wonderful and unique program. So आपके practice ने already training की need को समझा है, और that is why you all are part of this counseling program. But then this is one time training. How do you retrain counselors, or how do you retrain yourselves? That also we will take you through during this course of during course of this program. And then how do you retain the counselors? Training a counselor, obviously basics are must. As Dr. Ravindra was saying, it's ideal if you have someone who has got medical background, but लेकिन हर practice में हर एक जगह पे medical background वाले बंदे नहीं मिलते हैं. तो training this person in basics, start right from basics. You be behind your practitioner कि मुझे basics सिखाइए. आजकल बहुत सारे एवेन्यूज अवेलेबल है, जैसे डॉक्टर रविंद्र ने कहा यूट्यूब पे काफी सारी चीजें अवेलेबल है, बट यू फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ दिस बेसिक्स. रिमेंबर, आई मीन विथ नॉलेज देयर कम्स अ कॉन्फिडेंस. नॉलेज से कॉन्फिडेंस आता है, और कॉन्फिडेंस रिफ्लेक्ट्स थ्रू योर बॉडी लैंग्वेज. जब आप पेशेंट के सामने बैठे हो, सिर्फ पेशेंट को लगना चाहिए कि मैं इस बंदे या बंदी की बात क्यों सुनूं, या फिर यस ये बंदा या बंदी मुझे हेल्प कर सकता है, गाइड कर सकता है. वो कॉन्फिडेंस, रिमेंबर आई मीन एज डॉक्टर रविंद्र वाज सेइंग फ्यू इयर्स बैक, he started in 80s, but I started around 20 years back. 20 साल पहले भी काउंसलर्स नहीं थे. Ophthalmologists themselves used to counsel, but now your role is to substitute that particular communication part of ophthalmologist. So you are replacing your ophthalmologist. तो वो कॉन्फिडेंस पेशेंट को आपके साथ बात करने के वक्त आना चाहिए. तो कॉन्फिडेंस आएगा आपके नॉलेज से, और वो कॉन्फिडेंस आपके बॉडी लैंग्वेज से रिफ्लेक्ट होगा. Skill development is very important. I'm sure, I mean, since you have been appointed as a counselor, it's not just कोई बंदा है प्रैक्टिस में तो चलो उसको काउंसलिंग का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दे देते हैं, ऐसा कोई ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट नहीं करता. Your boss has seen some qualities in you, and that is why you have been assigned a role of counseling. But then वो जो आपके बॉस का या फिर ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट का कॉन्फिडेंस है, हाउ डू यू बिल्ड दैट कॉन्फिडेंस फर्दर? स्किल डेवलप करना ये आपकी भी जिम्मेदारी है. एंड देन प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपोजर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ड्यूरिंग इनिशियल फेज. We are going to take you through all these aspects of training. Like next week, we are going to have anatomy and then eye conditions, so all basics of eye. Then next few sessions, we are going to work on the skill development, right from communication skill to behavioral skill, and then the questioning skill. So all those sessions are included in this program. And then practical exposure, obviously we are going to have this on virtual platform. I'm sure you all are having practical exposure at your respective practices, लेकिन हम अपने प्रोग्राम में भी कोशिश करेंगे कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा आपको काउंसलिंग की प्रैक्टिस करवाई जाए. Sorry, whom you are counseling, आप किसे, next aspect is आप किसे काउंसिल कर रहे हैं. Your customer, who is your customer? Identifying decision maker is very important. I'm sure you all must have experienced this कि कई बार जो पेशेंट होता है वो खुद डिसीजन मेकर नहीं होता है. तो हम किसे काउंसिल कर रहे हैं, और डिसीजन मेकर को काउंसलिंग करते करते आपको पेशेंट को भी लेस एंशियस करना है, पेशेंट को भी तैयार करना है सर्जरी के लिए, एट द सेम टाइम डिसीजन के लिए तैयार करना है डिसीजन मेकर को. सो आइडेंटिफाइंग डिसीजन मेकर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अंडरस्टैंडिंग नीड्स, वांट्स एंड कंसर्न्स. There is a lot of difference between needs and wants. पेशेंट की विजुअल नीड क्या है is one thing, और पेशेंट क्या चाहता है is another thing. So we'll see the difference between needs and wants, and there is this very important factor that is concerns. उसकी concerns क्या है? When I ask my counselors wherever I am training, most of you will say कि उसके दिमाग में सर एक ही चीज रहती है, खर्चा कितना है. I'm sure, I mean, you all will have same answer, but I have different opinion on that. Remember, patient has never got a concern. पैसा ये उसकी concern है ही नहीं, उसका डिसीजन हो गया है. अगर मुझे कैटरैक्ट सर्जरी करवानी है, मुझे 20,000 खर्चा करना है, 15,000 खर्चा करना है, उसका मेंटल बजट फिक्स्ड है. So that's not his concern. उसने डिसीजन ले लिया है, उसकी कंसर्न कुछ अलग है. If he has not or she has not faced surgery in his lifetime, then surgery, the experience of surgery is concern. अगर उसके दिमाग में सर्जरी के दिन की एंजाइटी है, तो उस दिन मुझे एक्सपीरियंस कैसा आएगा is his concern. Many a times सर्जरी तो करवा लूंगा या करवा लूंगी, लेकिन उसके बाद क्या मुझे दिखेगा, अच्छा दिखेगा, आज जैसे दिख रहा है उससे बेहतर दिखेगा, is the concern. You need to find out the basic or exact concern in patient's mind. So this is difference between needs, wants and concerns. Obviously, decision depends on patient's demography, साइकोग्राफी एंड जियोग्राफी हम लोग बात करेंगे अपने सेशंस में कि हाउ दीज थिंग्स हेल्प, एंड देन ये सारी चीजें हमें गैदर कैसे करनी है. And then there is this pattern which we are seeing in last couple of years, especially post COVID, that is changed consumer behavior. Patient का behavior change हुआ है. It's not only patient, consumer, हम लोग भी consumer रहते हैं, right? Like we have changed our preferences. We have started online shopping more after COVID or lockdown. This has changed consumer behavior. Or we have started relying upon the small shop owners than the superstores. हमारा behavior change हो गया, and then we have realized that yes, हमें यहाँ पे भी अच्छी चीजें मिल रही है. तो obviously जहाँ से हमें अच्छी चीजें मिलती है, we keep on shopping at that place. So in market overall consumer behavior has changed. So how do we address this changed consumer behavior in our practice? So that also we'll be seeing. Next element is what is being counseled. काउंसिल क्या कर रहे हैं? जैसे मैंने कहा कि most of the times we focus on IOLs. First 2 minutes we spend on the जिसे कहते हैं ना हम लोग रट्टा मारा हुआ कैटरैक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन. कैटरैक्ट क्या होता है? आपके आंख में मोतिया हुआ है, and then सर्जरी ऐसे ऐसे होती है. Few places they explain in detail, few places they use some charts or images, few places they use certain videos, but then that also gets over in first 5 minutes. I'm sure. I mean, I can challenge you all on that. And then we come to our dearest part, that is the discussion on menu card. So is our counseling IOL based, cost based? What all other things we need to discuss with the patient? जैसे कि मैंने कहा, IOL implantation is just a very small part of the whole surgery, or the outcome definitely depends on choice of IOL, the type of IOL, but then more importantly, how the surgery is being done. Surgery कैसे हुई है, and then when we talk about IOL implant कैसे किया गया. So आपके सर्जन का एक्सपीरियंस, उसके लिए यूज किए जाने वाले इक्विपमेंट्स, आपका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ये सारी चीजें भी बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होती है व्हेन यू आर काउंसलिंग अ पेशेंट. सो वी मस्ट इंक्लूड इन दिस व्हाट एलिमेंट, ऑल दिस थिंग्स हैव टू बी इंक्लूडेड. ये सारी चीजें आपके काउंसलिंग में इंक्लूड की जानी चाहिए. पेशेंट केयर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आपके यहाँ पे पेशेंट कैसे केयर किया जाता है, व्हाट एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट्स यू आर टेकिंग. You need to boast. मैंने जैसे कहा था, आपको याद होगा कि counseling is an opportunity for you to promote your practice. Certain promotional message देने के लिए आपके लिए ये avenue है. So these are the things. Your doctor is not going to talk. Your receptionist is not going to talk. Patient is experiencing all these things. But then we have certain opportunities during our counseling session to discuss these unique points. I call it as USPs, unique selling points, USP, with your patient. Experience on the day of surgery. This is must and must and must जो पेशेंट के साथ एक्सप्लेन या डिस्कस किया जाना चाहिए, पेशेंट की एंजाइटी कम करने के लिए और पेशेंट को प्रिपेयर करने के लिए, एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली पेशेंट्स के एक्सपेक्टेशंस लेवल अप करने के लिए. अगर ये चीजें डिस्कस नहीं होती है, एंड इफ पेशेंट कम्स विद सर्टेन डिफरेंट एक्सपेक्टेशंस इन माइंड, देन देयर इज अ मिसमैच ऑफ एक्सपेक्टेशंस. तो ये चीजें डिस्कस की जानी चाहिए. और जैसे कि डॉक्टर रविंद्र ने कहा कि कंसेंट फॉर्म भी कम से कम 2 से 3 दिन पहले दिया जाना चाहिए. पेशेंट को एडिक्वेट टाइम दिया जाना चाहिए कंसेंट पढ़ने का. अगर उसकी कुछ क्वेरीज है तो सर्जरी के दिन वो आके आपके साथ डिस्कस करेगा. So these are the elements of what should be counseled. One very important part is cataract surgery at your practice. हम लोग कैटरैक्ट सर्जरी डिस्कस करते हैं, फेको डिस्कस करते हैं, कई बार फेको के एनिमेशन दिखाते हैं, आयल इम्प्लांटेशन के एनिमेशन दिखाते हैं. एट certain practices we discuss. I mean, I have seen at certain rural or peripheral practices, they are still comparing between SICS and FECO. FECO advantages क्या है, SICS से या फिर उसके पहले वाले सर्जरी से FECO बेहतर कैसा है, हमारे यहाँ पे कैसे सुचरलेस, ये वो हम सारी चीजें बात करते हैं। बट ये सारी इस टाइप की सर्जरी आपके शहर में कम से कम 90% प्रैक्टिसेस में ऐसी ही सर्जरी होती है। What is difference at your practice? आपके प्रैक्टिस में अलग क्या होता है? You must discuss these things with patient. Just remember one thing. Patient जब तक आपके प्रैक्टिस में है, आपके हॉस्पिटल में है, आपके पास अपॉर्चुनिटी है, आपके पास जो चीज है वो उसको बताने का। Once patient leaves your practice, then you do not have opportunity. So this is an opportunity. हम लोग इसको hook बोलते हैं कि to hook up the patient. पेशेंट बाहर भी चला जाए तो दीज आर द थिंग्स, जैसे आपके प्रैक्टिस में अलग क्या है, दीज आर हुक्स कि आप पेशेंट आपके ही प्रैक्टिस में वापस आना चाहिए। सो यू मस्ट एक्सप्लेन, वी विल बी सीइंग these aspects in detail during course of this whole course. And then your experience, you must discuss your personal experience as a counselor. So this is an opportunity, वो बहुत ज्यादा कॉन्फिडेंस देता है। And you have to find out opportunity to discuss your experience, your surgeon's experience, and then your patient's experience. Patient's experience is also a very crucial part of the content of your counseling or the counseling material. So this is what we will be seeing, what needs to be discussed during counseling. Then next is where it's being counseled. I am aware कि कई सारी practices में suitable जगह नहीं होती है, स्पेशली जो मेजर टाउन्स है या सिटीज है जहाँ पे स्पेस इज अ क्रंच और स्पेस बहुत ज्यादा वैल्यूएबल कमोडिटी है, तो वहाँ पे 6x6 या 6x7 की एक काउंसलिंग स्टेशन क्रिएट करना बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट। एट वेरियस प्रैक्टिसेस रिसेप्शन पे काउंसलिंग की जाती है, कहीं पे वेटिंग एरिया में छोटा सा टेबल होता है। इफ यू हैव अ सेपरेट स्टेशन, वंडरफुल। According to me, size does not matter, but you must have a separate station for counseling. That is a must. You should not counsel in front of the waiting OPD patients, on the reception desk, or just anywhere in the OPD sitting besides the patient, and wherein you have a lot of noise around. It really does not serve the purpose. A separate station is must. It should be comfortable, because मैंने जैसे कि काउंसलिंग प्रोसेस डिस्कस की, पेशेंट इज एंग्शियस, आपका फर्स्ट जॉब क्या है, उसकी एंजाइटी कम करना है। देन इट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू मेक दैट पेशेंट कंफर्टेबल while he is sitting for the counseling session. It should be noise free, disturbance free. I am aware काउंसलर्स के ऊपर और भी कई सारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज दी जाती है, जैसे कि पेशेंट्स के कॉल्स हैंडल करना, दूसरे किसी पेशेंट जो वॉक इन आया है उसकी क्वेरीज हैंडल करना, और कई बार ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ काउंसलिंग ये सारी डिस्टर्बेंसेस रहती है। आइडियली योर काउंसलिंग स्टेशन शुड बी डिस्टर्बेंस फ्री, बट देन इट्स नॉट इन योर हैंड। मेनी अ टाइम्स आपके जो कोलीग्स है उनके हाथ में ये रहता है, फोन कॉल आपके हाथ में नहीं रहता है। बट irrespective of that, अगर आपके काउंसलिंग सेशन में डिस्टर्बेंस आता है, how do you handle such disturbances and how do you give importance to the ongoing counseling session? That also is very important. And this last point, I love this point, and I would ask everyone to just think on this point with a lot of concentration. My humble request to you all is, first, respect your counseling efforts, you yourself first. कई बार काउंसलिंग जो मैंने देखा है, it just becomes a routine. मुझे सुबह वैसे ही रोज की तरह तैयार होके हॉस्पिटल जाना है, मेरा जो स्टेशन है वहां पे जाके बैठना है, जो भी पेशेंट सामने आता है, मुझे ये चीजें उन्हें बतानी है, उसे बाहर भेजना है। अगर पेशेंट कन्विंस होता है, उसकी सर्जरी की डेट देना। नो, योर रोल इज वेरी 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 much more than that. You first respect your counseling efforts, you yourselves. So that is very important. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure once you go through these 10 sessions, आपका पूरा नजरिया बदल जाएगा towards your counseling or towards your role. So we'll see this thing. This was where it's been counseled, and then how it's been counseled. कैसे किया जाता है? What all things do you use? कौन सी सारी चीजें होनी चाहिए as a as a counseling kit in your armamentarium. Having your own presentation is very important because कई बार मैंने देखा है काउंसलर जस्ट as a routine process काउंसलिंग स्टार्ट कर देते हैं। इसमें क्या नई चीज है, इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? दिन में मैं 10, 12, 15 काउंसलिंग करता हूँ या करती हूँ। Now I know very well. So I don't need any kind of tool, or I don't need any kind of presentation. But having presentation is very important. Like I am having today. I have been training counselors for past 20 years. But still, if you ask me, आप में से किसी को अगर सामने ऐसे ही बिठाया जाए, I can train you just like that, without any supportive tool. But still, this presentation is very important for me for two reasons. One is, it's very boring to see one face continuously. जैसे कि अभी I have been talking for almost half an hour now or 40 minutes. अगर सिर्फ एक face देख के, then you are not grasping. Your grasping or collecting power ability automatically goes down. So you have something visual in front of you. So that acts as helping tool to connect with your patient or connect with your audience. Second important aspect of having your own presentation is you do not miss on any point. I am sure मैं भले 20 साल से ये ट्रेनिंग कर रहा हूं, आई एम श्योर अगर मैं विदाउट प्रेजेंटेशन ये ट्रेनिंग शुरू करूं, तो आई एम श्योर आई एम गोइंग टू मिस आउट ऑन एटलीस्ट 5 to 10 points, which I cannot afford, which you cannot afford as a counselor. So having your own presentation is very, very important. Second thing is take away material. As I said, जब तक पेशेंट आपके प्रैक्टिस में है, तब तक आपका उसके ऊपर कंट्रोल है। वो जब बाहर जाता है, what is he carrying with him or her? उसके साथ कुछ होना चाहिए जो वो घर जाके रिफर बैक करे। अगर उसका डिसीजन मेकर घर पे बैठा है और डिसीजन मेकर भी नहीं है, उसके वेलविशर्स है, उसके फैमिली मेंबर्स है, उनके साथ अगर उसे डिस्कस करना है, तो he is not going to recollect everything what you have discussed during your 15 minutes counseling session. Any audience, this is proven fact, any audience just grasps 40% of what is being delivered by an orator or narrator or a speaker. आपका पेशेंट तो एक अलग स्टेट ऑफ माइंड में है। यू कैन नॉट एक्सपेक्ट कि वो आपने जो उसे बातें बताई है, he is going to reproduce all those things, whatever you have said, 100% at his place to his well-wishers or family members. So takeaway material, brochure is very important. Display in your counseling room is also very important. क्या display किया जाता है? And my suggestion, as far as display is concerned, you have to design the display. We are going to have a separate session on these supportive tools, जहां पे हम लोग बात करेंगे कि डिस्प्ले में क्या होना चाहिए, क्या नहीं होना चाहिए. But then my suggestion, till the time we reach that particular session, I think which is 9th or 10th session, तब तक आप इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कीजिए, आप खुद ऑब्जर्व कीजिए कि आपके काउंसलिंग एरिया में क्या डिस्प्ले किया जा रहा है. You must design the display of your counseling area or counseling station or counseling chamber, whatever it is. Posters hai, brochures, as I said. E-brochure is one thing which can be very helpful. which can be in the format of just a brochure, a text form, or video or animation, which adds to the whatever you want to convey to your patients. Patient का एक interest develop होता है, because nowadays everyone has got this small device with them, and even we prefer referring to something on mobile rather than having 8 or 10 sheets of paper in our hands. The e-brochure can be very effective, and it would be more effective if it is in the form of video or animation. Brand your surgery. What is being counseled or how it is being counseled? Brand your surgery. जैसे कि it's just not like cataract surgery with yellow monofocal eye. No, you brand your surgery so that you are able to differentiate between other surgeries or surgery at other places and surgery at your place. We'll see how do we brand our surgery in the course of this program. And then use patients' testimonials widely. When I say use, first start collecting patient testimonials. Believe me, that is very, very, very valuable, what I would say, content that can be that can prove itself to be helpful in your counseling efforts or in your promotional efforts also. Patient testimonials not just for counseling, आपके social media efforts में या फिर promotions में, आपके website के लिए, आपके in-house display के लिए, patient testimonials. And then believe me, I mean आपकी practice जिस किसी भी stage पे अभी हो, initial stage पे है, 10 साल हुए हैं, 15 साल हुए, 30 साल हुए, your practice has evolved on the basis of your own past patients. आपने कितने भी lakhs के advertisements किए हो, your patients have not come through those advertisements. Your own previous or past patients have sent sent your patients. That is how your practice has evolved. So patient is interested in experience of your past patients. That is very important, I would say, asset of your practice that we must collect and then use it wisely. So this is what, how is it's being counseled. And last thing is, just excuse me. Yeah, sorry. Last thing is, मैंने जैसे कहा कि it's very routine practice for most of us. We do not actively or proactively try to keep ourselves upgraded. Upgradation तो काफी बात की बात है. अभी हम लोग जिस stage पे है, do we try and track effectiveness of our counseling? When I say effectiveness, it's not just numbers. We have heard from Dr. Ravindra कि सिर्फ convert करना या फिर higher packages में convert करना is not the ultimate goal of your counseling efforts. I'm sure you all are tracking numbers. मैंने last month में कितने सारे patients को convert किया, patients conversion rate. I have got difference of opinion on patients conversion rate also that we will discuss in that particular session. But then patients conversion rate is not the whole thing of your effectiveness of your counseling effort. Quality of your counseling, ये भी बहुत ज्यादा मायने रखती है. आप कैसे काउंसिल कर रहे हैं? कल मैं जैसे काउंसलिंग कर रही थी, आज क्या मैं उससे बेहतर काउंसिल कर रही हूँ? I was trying to handle one query. कल मैंने वो टाइप की क्वेरी जिस तरह से हैंडल की, आज क्या मैं वो बेहतर तरह से हैंडल कर सका या सकी? ये तभी आप कर पाओगे जब आप कल की क्वेरी के ऊपर कुछ एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट्स लोगे. Suppose today one patient asks you one query and which you are not able to handle satisfactorily. बट देन आपने वो बस जस्ट टाइम, हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, समय मार लिया, देन यू आर हैप्पी, मैंने पेशेंट को कुछ भी करके भगा दिया. डोंट बी हैप्पी इन दैट. यू नो, यू शुड कीप ऑन थिंकिंग कि मैं उस क्वेरी को बेहतर कैसे हैंडल कर सकता था या सकती थी. That is effectiveness of your counseling, and that is how you are going to evolve as a counselor. So these are the tools which we'll be seeing, which you can use in your practices. Recording, as Dr. Ravindra was also mentioning, रिकॉर्ड कीजिए, ऑडियो रिकॉर्ड कीजिए. वीडियो रिकॉर्ड किया तो बहुत अच्छा. वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग में आपके जेस्चर्स, पोस्चर्स, फेशियल एक्सप्रेशंस, ये सारी चीजें कैच होती है. एंड देन इट्स लर्निंग फॉर यू योरसेल्फ. ऑफ कोर्स पेशेंट की कंसेंट लीजिए कि मैं ये अपने ट्रेनिंग के लिए और क्वालिटी के लिए आई एम रिकॉर्डिंग दिस. इफ यू डोंट माइंड, रिकॉर्ड योर काउंसलिंग सेशंस एंड देन रिविजिट देम. जस्ट सी मैं कहाँ पे गलत गया या गलत गई. Take feedback from your patients. Ideally, your ophthalmologist should take feedback about your counseling efforts. But if not him or her, you can design or devise some feedback form. And then at the end of, not everyone, you can sample few patients, maybe 1 or 2 in a day. And then you regularly, you can take feedback from your patients. So it helps you improving. Don't take it personally. You know, patient ने कहा, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि if it's better if someone else is taking, so that the feedback is neutral and honest. But then don't take it personally. मैंने बहुत अच्छा किया, वो patient ही थोड़ा खड़ूस था. You know, खड़ूस is very common word that is being used by the staff. I'm aware of that. But then, you know, don't try and blame the patient. Instead of that, try and track how you are improving as a person or as a counselor. This is particular point that I was discussing. Counseling conversion rate is definitely a part of it, but then that is last or the third part of it. And then follow up with patients. You take follow up with patients, even if they have undergone the surgery, you keep in touch with them. That is again a promotional avenue as a counselor, because those patients are going to refer new patients to your practice. So just to sum up in a nutshell, take this as an opportunity as your promotional or marketing tool. Appoint a counselor, it's a must, as a very senior ophthalmologist Dr. Ravindra has endorsed. Nowadays having a separate counselor is a must. Train well, retrain, and most importantly retain. Accessibility between counselors and surgeon is very crucial point. Many a times you feel that you do not have accessibility with your surgeon. You discuss, आप discuss कीजिए openly आपके boss के साथ या फिर आपके ophthalmologist के साथ कि सर week के एक 5 मिनट मुझे आपके साथ spend करना बहुत important है. I may have certain concerns or I may have certain queries जो आप solve कर सकते हैं, address कर सकते हैं. आपको initiative लेके सर्जन का टाइम लेके वो 5 या 15 मिनट उनके साथ स्पेंड करने बहुत जरूरी है. एंड देन ऑनगोइंग ओपीडी में, ड्यूरिंग ओपीडी आवर्स आल्सो हैविंग एक्सेसिबिलिटी इज आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इफ यू कम अक्रॉस, जैसे मैं अभी कुछ देर पहले डिस्कस कर रहा था, इफ यू कम अक्रॉस some uncomfortable query which you are not very comfortable answering or which you do not know the answer, you should have accessibility to your surgeon. उस वक्त जाके आप सर्जन को पूछ के answer that query satisfactorily. That is very important, because if you leave that patient unanswered, there are chances that would be the basic or the main concern in his mind or her mind, जिसे unanswered लेके वो वापस चला जाता है. And then that may impact your conversion, or that may impact that patient getting convinced or committed. You remember the last 2 steps of our counseling process. Interactive counseling is one concept that we have developed over past 15 years, and we have successfully implemented at various places, which is not very, out of the world concept, which all the counselors are supposed to do. But as I said, आप अपने सर्जरी को ब्रांड कीजिए, वैसे ही मैंने अपने काउंसलिंग को ब्रांड किया है, कॉल्ड एज इंटरैक्टिव काउंसलिंग, सो दैट इट साउंड्स समथिंग interesting, and then counselors pay attention. But this is what all counselors are supposed or expected to carry on during your counseling sessions. Promote USPs. जैसे मैंने कहा, USP is unique selling points. How your practice or how your hospital is different than others. First you have to know. First you have to get convinced. I always ask, अगर आपके फैमिली में या फिर आपके पेरेंट्स में किसी के कैटरेक्ट सर्जरी करवानी है, तो आप कहाँ पे करवाओगे? आई एम श्योर मोस्ट ऑफ यू वुड आंसर, ऑब्वियसली हमारे हॉस्पिटल में। क्यों करवाओगे? क्योंकि हम बेस्ट है। सी, बेस्ट इज वेरी जनरल टर्म, जो बंदा स्ट्रीट्स पे हैंकरचीफ या फिर क्लोथ्स बेचता है, वो भी चिल्लाता रहता है, बेस्ट माल है, बेस्ट माल है। या फिर शोरूम में जो होता है वो भी बेस्ट क्वालिटी बोलता है। बेस्ट इज वेरी जेनरिक टर्म. You have to dissect that term and you have to know why your hospital is best, and those are USPs of your hospital. Once you get convinced, then you will be able to use those USPs smartly. We'll be seeing, how do we identify USPs of our hospital, and then how do we utilize them during counseling session. As I said, mark these words and then pay serious attention to these words. Respect you yourself, respect your counseling efforts. You pay good attention and good respect to what you are doing. Then everybody else around you, your colleagues, your ophthalmologist, and most importantly, your patients would respect your efforts or respect you as a counselor. Having your own tools, as we discussed, is very important. We'll be seeing during the respective session, and then tracking what are the tools and formats and what are the strategies of tracking effectiveness of your counseling efforts and how do we use those tools. That also you'll be seeing. So that's it for the first session. I have just given you overview of what all things we are going to cover during next 9 or 10 sessions. I would be glad if you want anything else to be added, and you can note down my email ID or a contact number, and you can connect with me with your suggestions. If we are creating, I'm not sure whether Dr. Senthil has floated this idea. If we are creating a WhatsApp group, then I may send one Google form for your suggestions and inputs so that we can improve our sessions. हम लोग अपने sessions दिन ब दिन बेहतर कर सकते हैं. That's it. Now I think it's 7:32. We'll open it for question answers. Mr. Hari? Mr. Hari, are you here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we open for the question answers now. Do you want them to unmute themselves and ask, or?
Yeah. They can unmute and they can ask question.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can unmute, but just try and see if someone else is asking. Be in a queue and then wait for some time. Yeah. Anyone? Are they able to unmute themselves? Have you given them permission?
तो मेरा ये सवाल नहीं है. तो बेसिक टेकअवे फ्रॉम दिस क्लास इज, फॉर एग्जांपल, टू हैव ए सेपरेट काउंसलर रूम और उसके चारों तरफ फॉर एग्जांपल कोई कैटरेक्ट सर्जन, जो काउंसलर है वो पीपीटी बना के रखेंगे जो कि हर स्टेज के बाद अगर अच्छा होगा हर पेशेंट को उसी सीक्वेंस में लिख के दिखाएंगे, जैसे कि ये ऐसा होता है और वहाँ का कैटरेक्ट निकाल के हम कैटरेक्ट की सर्जरी करते हैं. और प्रिफरेबली अगर कोई वीडियो वगैरह होगा उनके पास, अगर डेस्कटॉप वगैरह है तो उसमें वीडियो भी दिखा सकते हैं. और पेशेंट का कॉन्फिडेंस गेन करना बहुत जरूरी होता है, कि उनको अप्रहेंशन करना बहुत जरूरी होता है कि वो डर रहे हैं, तो उनको उस डर से पहले उसको कॉन्फिडेंस गेन करना जरूरी होता है, एंड डोंट पुश. सो व्हाट आई डू, व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, व्हाट इज राइट, प्लीज लेट मी नो. व्हेन आई सी ए पेशेंट आई काउंसल देम. आपका
sorry to interrupt you. Can you introduce yourself? You are an ophthalmologist or
myself Dr. Ashwini.
okay.
So
So you're practicing ophthalmologist and you yourself counsel
I
patients.
just opened my setup just a month back.
Okay, great, sir.
So I counsel patient. For example, आज patient आया तो मैं उसको बोलता हूँ कि cataract है, and I had taken a slit lamp imaging system. So I show them the dilated photo के ये देखिए cataract है. I had an eye with artificial images like the demo of eye, where the clear lens is there, their mature lens, different grade of lenses is there. So I counsel them कि ये आपका cataract lens clear होता है, और मेरे जो इमेजिंग सिस्टम में पड़ा हुआ है जो क्लियर लेंस बच्चों का जैसे होता है, मैं दिखाता हूँ देखो ये क्लियर होता है, और आपका ऐसे है ग्रेड 2 हो गया, ग्रेड 3 हो गया, या व्हाइट हो गया, आप वेट करोगे तो व्हाइट हो जाएगा, लेकिन आपका जैसे इतना व्हाइट हो गया इसलिए आपको दिख नहीं रहा है. तो एंड वो समझ जाता है. फिर उनको मैं बोलता हूँ कौन सा लेंस डालेंगे सर, तो मैंने बोला कि मेरा ये कहना रहता है कि आपके कंफर्टेबल के हिसाब से जो बेस्ट आप अफोर्ड कर सकते हो वो डालना. आपका पेइंग कैपेसिटी जितना है, अगर आपका 40,000 तो 40 डालिए, आपका 15,000 तो 15,000 डालिए, 20,000 तो 20,000 डालिए. आपका पेइंग कैपेसिटी कितना है वो डिसाइड करिए पहले. कभी ये नहीं सो क्योंकि लेंस डलेगा एक बार ही, उसके बाद नहीं डलेगा. तो अगर आपका पेइंग कैपेसिटी अफोर्ड कर रहा है तो आप बेस्ट के लिए जाइए, अगर नहीं है तो आप कम के लिए जाइए. उसमें कोई ऐसा नहीं है, काम सबका एक ही है देखना, लेकिन क्वालिटी का डिफरेंस रहता है. जैसे कि सब चलाते, मैं सबको पेशेंट को एक ही एग्जांपल देता हूं, आप कौन से बाइक से आए हो या कौन से गाड़ी से आए हो. कोई बोलता है मैं स्कूटी से आया हूं, तो मैं बोलता हूं कि जैसे आप स्कूटी से आए हो दाम 40,000 है, लेकिन बुलेट का दाम 2.5 लाख है, तो दाम तो चलता तो रोड पे ही है, 2 ही लोग बैठते हैं, लेकिन क्वालिटी का डिफरेंस तो रहता है. तो वही है, आपको डिसाइड करना है. मेरा बस कहना का मतलब ये रहता है कि कुछ लोग कंजूसी करके सस्ता लेंस डालते हैं, बाद में रिग्रेट करते हैं कि मैंने अच्छा लेंस नहीं डाला. मैं आपको समझा दे रहा हूं इसलिए क्योंकि बाद में कल आकर आपका बेटा या कोई आकर मुझे बोलेगा कि सर आपने हमको समझाया नहीं, हम अच्छा लेंस डालते हैं. क्योंकि बहुत सारे ऐसा होता है. तो मैं ऐसा क्लियरली बोलता हूँ, शुड आई कीप ऑन कंटिन्यूइंग दैट और शुड आई चेंज समथिंग जस्ट लाइक नॉट बीइंग दैट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. दैट इज माय फर्स्ट पार्ट. सेकंड पार्ट, अभी तो मेरा कोई काउंसलर है नहीं, मैं दिन में 2-4 पेशेंट देखता हूँ. तो अभी जैसे कि पेशेंट आके मुझे डिस्काउंट मांगते हैं, सर कुछ डिस्काउंट दे दो, 2,000 का कर दिए, 1,000 कर दो. तो मैंने स्टाफ को बोल के रखा है डिस्काउंट पैसा का डिस्कशन मेरे पास नहीं होगा, पैसा आप देख लो, मैं उन पेशेंट को काउंसलिंग कर दूंगा. अगर किसी को डिस्काउंट करना है आप लेके आओगे, एक फिक्स है कि चलो पेशेंट गरीब है 1,000 रुपए, कुछ एक डिस्काउंट अगर होगा तो कर लो. पहले तो नो है, नहीं होगा, क्योंकि मैं मार्केट में ये कोई सब्जी बाजार नहीं है कि आपने डिस्काउंट रखा है हम 4-35,000 करके करेंगे. वैसे तो व्हाट शुड आई डू, कि हाँ प्राइस थोड़ा बढ़ा के कम करना जरूरी है, फिक्स रखना जरूरी है, या जैसे कि मेरा बहुत सिंपल है कि कोई डॉक्टर आया तो उसके लिए कंसल्टेशन फ्री है, डॉक्टर फॉर हिमसेल्फ. अगर कोई डॉक्टर के पेरेंट्स आए तो उनके लिए मैं 50% लेता हूँ, डॉक्टर खुद आए हैं तो. और आप आर्मी वाले हैं तो उनके लिए मैं 30% ऑलरेडी ओपीडी कंसल्टेशन उनके लिए, ये बिकॉज मेरा ये व्यू है तो मैं उनके लिए वो कंसेशन कर दिया हूँ. कंसेशन नहीं, एज आउट ऑफ रेस्पेक्ट, बिकॉज ही इज एन आर्मी पर्सन. तो दिस इज एन ओपीडी डॉक्टर है तो आई डोंट चार्ज एनीथिंग फ्रॉम प्रोफेशनल कर्टेसी है. तो दीज आर फ्यू क्वेश्चंस. लाइक फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज शुड आई बी दैट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, जैसे मैं बोलता हूँ, क्योंकि आई फील एज ए डॉक्टर समटाइम ना पेशेंट अपना सोना भी गिरवी रख के आके सर्जरी कराते हैं, तो आई डोंट वांट दैट पेशेंट शुड डू दैट एस्पेक्ट आल्सो. तो मैं बोलता हूँ ऐसे, तो शुड वी बी दैट क्लैरिफाइंग टू ए पेशेंट कि हाँ ऐसा है, और शुड आई मॉडिफाई समथिंग इन माय टॉक और इन माय स्पीच, और व्हाट शुड आई डू.
राइट सर. सबसे पहले तो थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दिस इंफॉर्मेशन. एंड एक चीज मैं पूरे ऑडियंस को लेट मी शेयर, दो आई हैव गॉट 20 years of experience in this thing, but each session is a learning session for me also. जैसे कि ये नया एग्जाम्पल मुझे सुनने को मिला स्कूटी और बुलेट का, so that is wonderful examples that you have been using. Coming back to your question, first is when I say कि एक flow या फिर एक presentation होना चाहिए, so I am not saying कि एक ही flow में उसी flow में हर एक patient का counseling होगा. It's not required. It's not necessary that हर एक patient का counseling उसी flow में होगा. Presentation आपके लिए या फिर काउंसलर के लिए इसलिए जरूरी है कि he or she should not miss out on any point. But then जैसे कि मैंने कंसेप्ट बताई, इंटरैक्टिव काउंसलिंग शुड बी मोर एंड मोर इंटरैक्टिव. So it should be in the form of discussion and questions and answers. So interaction cannot go in one particular flow, right? किस पेशेंट्स के इंटरैक्शन में कुछ चीजें पहले आ सकती है, किसी पेशेंट के इंटरैक्शन में वो चीजें बाद में आ सकती है. But then patient should have those things in front of, counselor should have those things in front of him or her. इसलिए वो प्रेजेंटेशन या फिर वो टूल रहना जरूरी है. But then counseling is very dynamic process which we will be taking you through during these 10 sessions, and then how do we make it more and more interactive. Second thing, I liked your approach as जो आप कह रहे हैं कि आप अपने हिसाब से आपको जो सूट करता है वो डालिए. I think all counselors should have same approach. जैसे कि हम लोग बता रहे हैं, डॉक्टर रविंद्र ने भी बताया, मैं भी बता रहा हूँ बार बार कि हमारा काम पेशेंट को ज्यादा से ज्यादा हायर पैकेज में अपग्रेड करवाना है, या फिर जिसे हम लोग मार्केटिंग के फुल लैंग्वेज में बोलते हैं बोतल में उतारना. तो हमारा काम वो नहीं है. हमारा काम है पेशेंट सेटिस्फैक्शन. पेशेंट को एक अच्छा सेटिस्फाई करके हमें वापस भेजना है. तो यू कंटिन्यू. द ओनली थिंग इज व्हेन यू से कि कई पेशेंट्स कुछ साल बाद हल्का लेंस डालने के बाद कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स लेके आते हैं, और उस वक्त आई थिंक जस्ट ट्राई एंड मॉडिफाई दैट थिंग कि वो चीज कैसे मॉडिफाई करनी है हम लोग कम्युनिकेशन स्किल के सेशन में देखेंगे. बिकॉज इफ पेशेंट हैज गॉट मेंटल बजट और बजट ऑफ 15,000 ओनली, एंड देन आप कितना भी उसको कॉन्फिडेंस दे, एक ये जो चीज आपसे सुनते हैं वो, तो पेशेंट में हैव ऑलवेज लाइफ लॉन्ग उसके दिमाग में यही चीज रहेगी कि आई हैव गॉट समथिंग इंफीरियर इन माय आईज. वो भी चीज उसके दिमाग में.
I don't say कि any lens is inferior. I say how I counsel them is सब लेंस का काम सही है, क्वालिटी डिफरेंस है, लेकिन हाँ अब कुछ लेंस का कम दाम का है तो उसका कुछ डीमेरिट्स होते हैं. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि 40,000 का लेंस खराब नहीं होगा. 40,000 का लेंस भी खराब हो सकता है, लेकिन प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ खराब उसका शायद कम होगा, इसका थोड़ा में भी ज्यादा होगा. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि 40,000 का लेंस खराब नहीं होता.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That is what you should continue. I mean, you should give confidence to patient कि आप 15,000 वाला करिए, 40,000 वाला करिए. सॉरी, मेरा काम है सर्जरी अच्छी करना. लेंस के हिसाब से आप अपने बजट के हिसाब से लेंस सिलेक्ट कीजिए. एंड एज यू करेक्टली सेड, ये एक आंख का ऑपरेशन लाइफ में एक ही बार होगा, तो आपको आपका बजट जितना है उतना ज्यादा से ज्यादा करवाइए. एंड द लास्ट पॉइंट आई हैव टू टेक, आई कैन सी लॉट ऑफ रेज्ड हैंड्स. I have to take few next questions also. Discount की जो बात की है, that issue also we are going to address in our coming sessions. So I'll come back to you on the discounts part in those sessions. Thank you so much. I think some Mr. Just a moment. Who had raised hands? Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Dr. Khushween. This is my request that if you can provide us with the videos of animation, like which you were talking about, which can convince, like the visual thing can convince more rather than just if we keep on speaking and they just have our face in front of them, they might not take that effect once they go back. So if you can provide us with the videos, animation.
I can provide you links. They are easily downloadable from YouTube. But my suggestion would be, there's a lot of these companies have got that मुझे ये videos चाहिए, and they'll
your voice got disconnected just last 5 seconds.
Yeah, now it is audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of companies have these videos with them, you know, which are of high quality.
So if you can share those names of the companies which whom we can ask.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest. I mean, monetary interest, but then yes, Alcon has got it. Then
Okay.
Zeiss have a few good videos. Even
Okay.
AM, all companies have. Basically,
Okay, so
the
what?
IL companies.
Okay, so so we need to ask them that will they
Yeah,
be
you can
having
ask
animated?
sales executives. I want animation videos, and they have got good waiting room videos also.
Okay, okay, fine,
Yeah.
fine. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. Yes. Varsha T. Kapadia. Yes, Ms. Kapadia. You can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah. I counsel myself. I actually work in a multi-specialty hospital. I have
Okay.
my own setup. So the way I counsel my patients is I give example of different kinds of TVs.
Okay.
That picture will be seen same, just the difference will be in the clarity, the color contrast, what we see in LED, LCD or smart TVs.
Okay.
And one more question is now, I like earlier in the discussion, Dr. M.S. Ravindra said that we can't degrade our Indian lenses also. So, but I don't know how we should tell them about the difference between the pricing in Indian lenses and imported lenses.
Okay.
How to justify that?
Yeah. First and foremost, I mean, again, the first thing that I mentioned is we have to come out of this IOL-based counseling. You know, like first gentleman, doctor, I forgot his name. When he mentioned, we again are thinking of the IOLs. Secondly, I mean, you are also asking that, Indian lenses, then the imported lenses. There are a lot of other things which need to be discussed. I understand your limitations as solo practitioners, or that sir had just started his practice. So at this stage you cannot have a separate counselor. So these other things, you can train your staff. There is something called as primary counseling. So this cataract thing, the USPs of your surgery. So these things, those videos or that presentation is shared by your staff, maybe receptionist also. You can make, आप patient को सिर्फ बाहर बिठा के लैपटॉप पे आप बस ये cataract की information देखिए, उसके बाद में मैं आपसे वापस मिलती हूँ. But giving that information or sharing that information is very important. Coming back to Indian or imported, believe me, I mean, if we change our approach, other than positioning patient in a particular imported or Indian, interacting with patient, that is what we are going to see in our interactive counseling part of it. कि interaction will give you a lot of inputs. आपको उसका mental budget भी उसकी idea आ जाती है. As the previous doctor was saying कि कुछ लोग borrow करके भी surgery करवाते हैं. As a human, you would not like that thing to happen, because you yourself know that yes, Indian lenses, I mean, if they were not good, you would not have used in your lower packages.
Yes,
absolutely right. So getting good idea of the patient's demo, psycho, and geography, which I was saying, you will get that idea during your interaction. Then positioning that patient in a particular bracket becomes very easy. फिर उस वक्त आपको इंडियन के अगेंस्ट इंपोर्टेड जस्टिफाई करवाना उतना ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं होता, क्योंकि आपको पता चल गया है कि वो इंडियन में ही जाने वाला है. देन यू डू नॉट प्रमोट इंपोर्टेड. यू आर गेटिंग माय पॉइंट?
Yes.
Once we start promoting imported, then comes this question कि अरे यार मैं इंडियन के अगेंस्ट इंपोर्टेड का प्राइस कैसे जस्टिफाई करूं. अदरवाइज ऑल्सो ड्यूरिंग योर इंटरेक्शन, if you judge that patient ki uska inclination imported ki taraf hai, in that case also you need not justify Indian and imported price difference, because he has already convinced for imported. He has already convinced for imported.
Got that, sir. Thank you.
We'll see this in detail during our communication and the lenses part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Some Bora Vinay, Dr. Bora Vinay, or Mr. Bora Vinay.
यस सर, डॉक्टर विनय हियर।
Yes, sir.
हाँ सर, मैं ये जानना चाह रहा था कि सर जैसे आजकल कैटरेक्ट सर्जरी है जो एक डे केयर सर्जरी हो गई है नाउअडेज, it is a day care. Patient comes in the morning in OPD and
Can you, I'm sorry, sir. Can you start your video? So it would be great to see your face.
okay,
while
okay.
asking.
Yes. Yes, sir. Myself,
sir,
डॉक्टर
बोलिए।
विनय। सर जैसा कि मैं बताना चाह रहा था कि कैटरेक्ट सर्जरी इज नाउअडेज ए डे केयर सर्जरी। पेशेंट
Yeah.
मॉर्निंग में आएगा और बोलेगा कि मतलब जैसे उसको पहले से ही पता है किसी प्रीवियस विजिट पर कि उसको कैटरेक्ट है, अब वो आया है अपने पास में और बोल रहा है कि भी शाम को ही कर दीजिए। तो हाउ वी मैनेज द टाइम ऑफ काउंसलिंग, कंसेंट फॉर्म्स एंड ऑल अदर दीज थिंग्स टू दैट पेशेंट व्हिच इज want to operate same day in evening?
The first thing is whether do you operate on the same day in the evening? If
Yes.
if the practice is operating,
Yes.
then you will have to see the process remains same, sir.
Yes, sir.
First thing has to be counseling, right?
Yes, sir.
क्योंकि आपको उसकी इंक्लिनेशन या फिर आपको उसका पैकेज कंफर्म करवाना जरूरी है, you know,
Yes,
just to confirm the IOL. So first and foremost thing is counseling. And I would say, even if you are going to operate that patient just 1 hour down, suppose आपकी 1 घंटे बाद OT लिस्ट है और वो पेशेंट सुबह सुबह आया है, आपका पुराना पेशेंट है, सर आपने रिपोर्ट्स लिखवाए थे, मैं रिपोर्ट्स करवा के आया हूँ, आज के आज कर सकते हो।
Yes,
उस
sir.
केस में भी give due time to, due time for counseling, because especially in such hasty cases, patient expectations management कहीं ना कहीं मिस हो सकता है।
Yes, sir.
Getting my point? कई बार
Yes, sir.
ऐसे होता है कि available stocks, I have seen this happening, I have seen very few places wherein they operate on the same day, but then many places it happens that next day operate करवाना है, लेकिन फिर वो available stock में कौन सी लेंस है, फिर वो काउंसलर के तरफ एकदम एक नोट जाता है, उसको इस पैकेज में ये कीजिए, बट देन इन दैट प्रोसेस आल्सो गिविंग होल इंफॉर्मेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। रिमेंबर, your patient might opt for 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, whatever, I mean it does not matter, it varies from practice to practice, but जो इंफॉर्मेशन आपका पेशेंट लेके जाता है, इमेजिन वो पेशेंट बाहर जाके उसके कैटरेक्ट सर्जरी के बारे में उसके रिलेटिव्स को, फैमिली मेंबर्स को, वेल विशर्स को, फ्रेंड्स को बताने वाला है।
Yes, sir.
Like him to discuss few more things just than a visual outcome. अरे वहां पे जाइए, सर्जरी बहुत अच्छी हुई, ये तो आपका पेशेंट बता नहीं वाला है। वहां पे जाइए, टेक्नोलॉजी बढ़िया है, डॉक्टर का एक्सपीरियंस बहुत अच्छा है, और वहां का स्टाफ क्या बात करता है, सारे क्वेश्चंस के आंसर एकदम वहां पे। Would you like to be in this category कि आपका पेशेंट just more than visual outcome और भी सारी चीजें बाहर जाके डिस्कस कर रहा है? So that is why giving due time for counseling becomes very important.
मतलब एक्चुअली प्रैक्टिस के साथ साथ वो आपके बिहेवियर के बारे में भी बात करे, आपके मतलब जो आपका वहाँ पे वेटिंग एरिया था, मतलब टोटल एक्सपीरियंस अबाउट द हॉस्पिटल, वो बाकी दूसरे लोगों से बात करेगा, तो वो भी एक अपना काउंसलिंग पार्ट में मैटर करेगा। अगर सेम डे भी पेशेंट आ रहा है तो उसको इतना टाइम मिलना चाहिए कि वो अपनी सारी चीज समझ ले कि मैं लेंस कौन सा लगवा रहा हूँ, मुझे फायदा कितना होगा। एक सर मैं एक क्वेश्चन और पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि कई बार जैसे जब भी कोई सर्जरी वगैरह अपने करते हैं या पैकेज बताते हैं, तो वो सामने वाला बोलता है कि जैसे 25,000 का लेंस डलवा लो, तो जनरली पेशेंट के मन में जाता है कि आप 25,000 का ही लेंस डाल रहे हो। दिस इज नॉट ट्रू। मतलब इम्प्लांट कॉस्ट 40% हो सकती है, 50% हो सकती है किसी भी सर्जन के पैकेज में, अदर देन फैको चार्जेस हैं, ओटी चार्जेस हैं, और हम इनके बारे में बोलना भूल जाते हैं। तो क्या ये भी काउंसलिंग के सेशन में उसमें कवर होना चाहिए कि भी उसको बताना चाहिए कि भी आप जो सर्जरी करवा रहे हैं उसमें सारा का सारा लेंस का खर्चा नहीं है, 40,000 या 50,000 जो भी लग रहे हैं वो लेंस के नहीं लग रहे हैं, उसमें सर्जन की एक्सपर्टीज का फीस है, ओटी सेटअप है, मशीनरी है, तो ये भी इसमें आना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से।
एब्सोल्युटली राइट। लेकिन मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ ना कि ये कॉस्ट का बाइफर्केशन आप बताने से पहले ये सारी
Yes.
चीजें एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट सर। आपने जो भी चीजें बताई, एक्सपर्टीज, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इक्विपमेंट्स, आपके स्टेरिलिटी नॉर्म्स, ये सारी चीजें
sir.
अगर पहले डिस्कस हुई है, then he or she understands importance of these factors also in the final breakup bill. You're getting my point? So ये तो मस्ट है, मतलब ये आप कई जगह पे पैकेजेस अलग अलग तरीके होते हैं।
हाँ, वो एटलीस्ट पहले उसका मेंटल बजट बन जाए कि मेंटल बजट में वो ये है, फिर आप उसको ब्रेकअप्स बता सकते हैं।
लेकिन आपका पैकेज इंक्लूजन्स कुछ भी हो, कई जगह पे मेडिसिन इंक्लूडेड होते हैं, कई जगह पे मेडिसिन बाहर से लिखवा के देते हैं, आपका कंस्ट्रक्शन जो भी हो, लेकिन आपके पैकेज में क्या क्या इंक्लूड किया है वो पेशेंट को बताना बहुत जरूरी है। दैट इज व्हाट काउंसलर्स कॉल इट एज वैल्यू एडिशन, you know, I mean, you know,
Yes,
adding
sir.
value to your package, what I'm paying, वो जो मैं पे कर रहा हूँ
Yes.
उसमें मुझे क्या क्या चीज मिल रही है।
हाँ,
ये जो आपने
हाँ,
बताया
उसको
कि लेंस कॉस्ट, ये भी मार्केट में ऑप्थेल्मिक प्रैक्टिसेस नहीं फैलाया ना सर, या आपको 12,000
Yes,
की
sir.
लेंस बिकवाते हैं, 15,000 की, so at least we can
बिल्कुल,
start
बिल्कुल।
change from our end,
Yes, sir.
right?
सर तो उसमें जो सिंगल मल्टी स्पेशलिटीज में सर इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं आता, पर जो सिंगल आई क्लिनिक्स होते हैं उसमें पेशेंट जब मल्टी स्पेशलिटी से आता है तो वहां पे वो डॉक्टर के साथ डायरेक्ट कंसर्न में इतना नहीं रहता, वो अलग अलग एचआर और वो सबके साथ घूम के आता है। परंतु जब सिंगल आई स्पेशलिस्ट के साथ रहता है तो उस समय पे वो सारी चीज डॉक्टर से ही चाहता है कि मेरे को सब कुछ डॉक्टर से ही बता दें। तो वहां पे ये वाला प्रॉब्लम फेस करना पड़ता है कि आपने लेंस तो 25,000 का बोला था, आपने तो इसमें ब्रेकअप डाल दिया बिल्स में, इसमें सर्जन का चार्ज कैसे आ गया, ये कैसे आ गया, तब उसको वो बताना प्रॉब्लमेटिक रहता
ये
है।
काउंसलिंग में बताना बहुत जरूरी है, काउंसलिंग सेशन में ही ये कवर होना बहुत जरूरी,
ये बिल्कुल जरूरी है उसमें। ठीक है सर, थैंक्स।
Ideally having separate counselor is ideal situation whenever you can, at the earliest whenever you can have.
At present myself counseling my patients, and our optometrist also counseling my patients, and I think so, hope so okay, these sessions will be more useful for us for counseling.
Sure.
Thank you sir for the day.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Any other question? I cannot see any other raised hand. अगर और कोई question है, you can unmute yourself. I saw Dr. Khurana joining in. Sir, are you there? Yeah, any other question? अगर है तो हम लोग लेंगे, otherwise it's 7:57. We'll wind up the session. Mr. Hari?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Should we wind up the session?
Dr. Varsha Tapadia is one question given, na?
No, she asked, but I think she forgot to, de-raise the hand. Dr. Varsha Tapadia, okay. You want to ask something?
No, I'm done. I just did not know.
You asked, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So no more raised hands.
Okay.
Great. So thank you so much for this wonderful response for the first session.
I missed some part of it. So some session because of some patient came in between. So
yeah, see the recordings are going to be available, not immediately. Mr. Hari will guide you on that, but okay. Recordings are going to be available. Don't worry, of all the sessions.
I was listening, I was on, but there are in between some patient came, so I had to see them.
Yeah. Mr. Hari, can you just guide on the recordings when they will be available and how?
Sure. So before the next class, we will share the recording session in the group itself.
Yeah, next class means next Saturday, not tomorrow's class.
Next week, sir. Next week.
Week.
Tuesday or Wednesday will get the recordings.
Great. So thank you all. And I'm sure you all had a good session, and then all these 10 sessions are going to be value addition to your counseling efforts. So tomorrow again, same 6 to 8, we are going to have our next session, and we'll be starting our journey.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
So thank you all. Special thanks to Dr. Ravindra. Special valuable answer for the participants as well as doctors. Is more useful for those who are attended today. Okay. Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Doctor.